people is how to do hard times well. Because it's not if, it's just when, you guys. It's just when. It's when it's going to happen. It's not if. And there is a better way to do it. And we've all probably done it not well. And we've seen other people do it not well. And my question is this. When is a hard situation ever made better by handling it poorly?
Never.
When is a good situation ever made well or better by not handling it well? Okay, so how do we do it? How do it? How to express frustration, doubt, fear, sadness, anger, disappointment in a healthy and constructive way. And we're going to focus on 3 components of that today. And first of all, you guys, I need to know, does this even help you guys?
Yes.
Okay, because sometimes I'm like, am I helping them? I hope so.
Oh, no, you are.
Grace, when you send me the agenda, I'm like, where do we? Yes.
Let's put it this way. Last night, I had to go shopping with Jeremy to get kids' Halloween costumes, and he's getting mad at them because they're excited. And I'm like, I did not handle it very well because I'm like, what is going on?
And did that make it better?
No.
Probably not.
So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the concept of negative emotion. The second thing we're going to talk about is what happens when you don't express it. And the third thing that we're going to do is talk about options for handling it that will be both effective and helpful, okay? So let's talk about negative emotion. Did you realize that there are actually no negative emotions?
I would agree with that.
We're human. It's normal to feel. God put it in us, okay? We're given emotions for a reason. They are a guide to tell us that something maybe isn't working for you, that we're at a mental or physical limit, or that our boundary has been breached. It can also mean that you've not communicated well your boundary. Okay, so we've got to get rid of, like, I've got to get out of this funk. I've got to be more positive. Yes, if you're consistently being negative, that indicates an issue. But the issue isn't that you're feeling negative, it's that there's something that's continuing in your life that's not fitting with you, okay? So, like, that is, I just want us to get rid of that, I'm being negative. Okay, well, again, not, is it a problem to have a negative feeling? There's no actual negative feeling. And I would actually question your sanity if you were like, well, my arm just fell off, but I'm great. Okay, like, that's not actually, like, no. Right? Like, we would actually question the certifiability of a human if that was the case. My grandmother used to say, she was so smart. She was so smart. And she would always say, baby, you can lead with your head or you can lead with your heart, but the other one better be close behind. And I can't say it without her accent. Baby, you can lead with your head or you can lead with your heart, but the other better be close behind. She would get a little finger. Okay? The key is not in the feeling, but rather in identifying the emotion and its source. Do you know how few people right now can even tell you what they're feeling? And the reason we're going through this is because sometimes it moves so fast. A lot of people don't know it, but feelings are born of thought. But your brain moves so fast because of the rate at which we intake information now that you won't catch it, not even the feeling. You'll move right through thought, right through feeling, and you will only catch it by your action. And that's why we're learning this today, because if you catch yourself in the action, you're going, whoa, 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 whoa. The questions I want you to ask yourself, what am I feeling in my body? We've got to identify the emotion. I'm really stressed. I'm really anxious. I'm scared. And then what's the thought behind that? Those are the 2 questions I want you to ask yourself. What am I feeling in my body? What am I feeling in my body? And what thought is in my head? You guys know I have a son with autism. One of my favorite things, because emotion is very challenging for him. I'll say, Sam, when I can tell that something's going on in there, like, let's pause. And he goes completely still. And I'll say, what are we feeling in our body? And he'll put his little hands up and he'll close his eyes and he'll be like, 1 minute. Because it takes him a minute to register it. And then I'm like, okay, so let's try to figure out what's in our brain right now. And he's like, well, this and this and this and this and this. And I'm like, okay, so there it is. So you guys, the cool thing about Sam is because he's a slower processing speed, he's able to break it down and go through it sometimes faster than we are because we're moving so fast and can't break it down. So again, identifying the emotion and its source. Number 2, assigning accurate and healthy meaning to it. For example, assigning accurate and healthy meaning. There are times when you're not great, when you are sad, and it's normal and totally reasonable, okay? So it's when we go to extreme emotion, which is when we misassign things, okay? Let me give you an example. My party postponed. I'm not meant to do this Mary Kay thing. I went on a bad first date. I'm never gonna find someone, okay? I made a mistake. I'm so dumb. I'm in the wrong field. No, you're human. I didn't sell anything. This Mary Kay doesn't work. My team member quit. I'll never be rich. I can never. Okay. Do any of these things that happened mean the thing that we've assigned to it? No. Okay. It's kind of like saying, I remember one time on South Park, not my best habit, but every once in a while, it's just funny. There were these, I don't even remember what the premise of it was, but this little guy kept saying, they were the underpants gnomes. And they kept putting on a chalkboard, underpants equal dollars. They were stealing all the underpants. And it was like, what? That does not equal dollars, right? And it was just like, I sometimes think that we do that in our emotions. Somebody else's choice and action, their personal human flaw and poor accountability equals I'm never supposed to be successful in my life. Like, no, it means they're not going to be successful in their life. That's not what it means, okay? Or how many times did a mean girl or a mean boy in school tell us something and we took it to be absolute gospel truth when it's really, no, he's just an ass, okay? Is this ringing a bell for anybody or is this just me? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
but I'm also
Okay.
thinking this one's really good for kids.
Oh, it's huge for kids. It's huge for kids.
There are times where I can tell Danica's like, something's going on up there, and I'm like, okay, what are you
What
thinking?
happened?
What's
happened?
going on?
And you guys, here's the thing: when you ask somebody, you know, what happened, and you find out somebody said something and it has affected them. My question for my kids is always, and who does that speak to?
Mm-hmm.
Who does that speak to? And it really has helped them a lot. And how do we know when we've assigned an incorrect value? Because you can't prove it. One thing Joe, my coach, taught me is that if you can't prove it in a court of law, you can't call it truth. And that means beyond a shadow of a doubt. And because you see things all around that show you it's not true. So, does Mary Kay really not work? How do we know it works? Because we're improving, because you've had positive things happen, because you are better as a human, because you have skills you didn't have, because you see other people that have definitely worked the program and created successful results with it. We know that that's not the case. You can't prove that it doesn't work. You can prove that people quit. You can prove that people don't do. You can prove that we have learning curves that are sometimes really challenging, and you would probably struggle with that in any job that you took on, right? Okay. And here's the thing, I still want this opportunity for those people who are looking to do and not just think about doing, because those people are everywhere and they're doing it all over the place. When you see successful people, it's never that they are magic. It's just that they've done the work and they've dug into getting better, okay? So this part is just so important, friends, that we not think that emotions are negative. They're just pointing you in a direction. And you have to ask yourself, where is this coming from? Where is it going to? And have I assigned the correct value to it, okay? We also keep misassigning responsibility to, especially as women. We are taught that everyone's happiness and success and provision is our responsibility, and that's simply not true. And so what happens a lot of time, I see people put onto us things that are not ours. And we readily accept it because that's what we've been taught to do. Is that a fact?
It's not our responsibility, but no.
It's not. Okay? And the truth is, you are probably not their parent. You are probably not married to them. And even if you're a superior in a job, it is not your job to do their work, right? So I'm telling you this because I see women assign a lot of responsibility to themselves. What happens when has anybody ever seen someone driving like a tiny little truck down the road and they have a huge like trailer that they're pulling behind it, or like a camper or something, and the little truck's like, ee? That's what we're trying to do. And then we wonder why we're high emotion. If you just ran a marathon with concrete bricks around your ankle, don't you think you'd be a little tired too? Okay? Also, I think that people think that emotions are bad or wrong or negative, and then we add on something called a secondary emotion, which is an emotion because we mislabeled the original emotion. So we're exhausted. We don't express it because we've taken on too much that wasn't ours, or we've internalized something that somebody else said, and then we feel guilty and ashamed because we're being negative. Or we feel bad because we just snapped at somebody. Do you guys see how this snowballs? Like,
Yeah.
this is why I'm talking about it, okay? So let's talk about the second piece, which is what happens when we don't express emotion. What happens? There are two options.
Would blow up like a teacup.
You blow up like a teapot going off, okay? It's an explosion. And what does an explosion look like? What are the behaviors of an explosion?
You say and do things that you have no idea that you're doing or saying.
So we blow up, we yell, we get loud. What else?
Argue about things that it's really not about. It's never about not taking out the trash.
It's never about not taking out the trash. It's something small that triggers it. So we've got a giant pile of dynamite and somebody accidentally flicked a cig over there, right? Like, it's not the cig, it's just that there was this pile, right? What else? What else do we do when we explode outward? Does anybody here pick a fight?
Yeah, we hurt the people that we are close
We hurt
to.
the people that we love, and we pick a fight because we need to get it out, and we don't know how. We know that it's too much, so we pick a fight to get it to explode. Like, right? Like, that's what we do. So what's the opposite of the explosion? We implode.
Internalize.
Okay, we implode. And what does that look like?
Eating a bag of Oreos.
Eating a bag of Oreos like this, they suck. And then we have, later on, we're like, and now my stomach hurts, and like that, right? Like, we do that.
Yeah.
And here comes the secondary emotion. What's the secondary emotion? Guilt, shame, all of that, right? What else?
We're shut down.
Shut down. We stop talking. We isolate. Yes. Okay, has that ever helped anyone?
Nope.
My husband has a friend. It's one of his oldest, dearest friends. And he went through a nasty divorce. And this is the second time now that he's gone through a major life situation. No, third time. And his mannerism is to isolate. Will not talk. Doesn't let anybody know he's hurting. We didn't even know he was getting a divorce. But he assigned to it that nobody cared. And so then he blew up and said, don't come and talk to me. And then got mad again because no one came to talk to me. Right? Like, you guys, like, I finally went to his house with a lasagna. And he's like, I said I don't want to see anybody. I'm like, sit your ass down. So he sat down and I said, you listen to me, boy. You are not the scariest thing I've ever had come across my threshold. And I said, but I might be the scariest thing you've had come across. I said, you have got to stop this. It is not healthy. You are struggling, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. You have had something really crappy happen, and so we are going to sit here and we are going to feel it, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's going to make you stop acting like an ass. He's like, you've got a lot of nerve. And I said, and lucky for you, I'm giving my last one to you right now. You guys, we deal with men in our world, and a lot of them have the emotional height of a rhinoceros. People think we don't care when we don't express emotion. You're going through something hard. You start isolating. They think it's because you don't love them, that you're mad at them. Okay? How many men do this? And you're like, what? I don't understand what's wrong. There ain't nothing wrong with you, baby. It's that he's got something going on that he don't know how to deal with, okay? If you pull inward and get mean or become sarcastic and aloof, i.e. a lot of men work in that vein, people misinterpret it as a lack of love and caring, and we drive them away. This is especially true with children. If you're going through something hard and you take it out on them, even by pulling away, there is nothing that wounds like that, okay? There's this great, it's like a reel, and it's this man, and every time that his son backtalked or said something mean to his mom, he would make him go drive a nail in the fence. Anytime he did something mean or unkind to a friend, said something unkind, wasn't helpful, he had to put a nail in the fence. But then he said, the cool thing is, you can take a nail out for every time that you are helpful, and that you do say the right thing, and that you are a good friend. And so he did, and pretty soon, he had taken all the nails out of the fence, and he said, but here's the thing I want you to notice. The fence still has holes in it, just like all the people that you injured with your words and your actions. So, you guys, we don't get to have a bad day and blow it off. Has anybody here ever had somebody, blow up on you, and then they decide it's fine, so you should be over it too?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How does that work? Are you ever really okay?
No.
And if you don't know how to express now how you feel, it just goes on, right? And here's the thing. What happens sometimes when you have somebody behave poorly towards you and you jack them up about it? They get defensive. And whose fault does it become?
Yours.
You're just being too sensitive. We have a name for that. It's called gaslighting. Okay? When we don't express emotion, we become hyper aware and think the worst of others. Okay? We start catastrophizing. This is what it means. Like, have you ever seen that meme on Facebook where it's like, my husband was in a hurry this morning. He woke up late. He didn't kiss me goodbye. I'm pretty sure he's having an affair.
Yeah.
We start catastrophizing. Okay? High emotion equals low logic. It's like a seesaw, okay? High logic, if it's too high, can mean low emotion. That's not better. I live with 2 autistic men. Can I tell you how that can work, okay? What did Sam say? Julia, it is the circle of life. You are the slowest of our species. I'm like, okay. And he was talking about getting eaten by a dinosaur. Okay, he said he was going to throw her at the dino. And I was like, okay. And I thought to myself, he is actually factually correct. I mean, she really is the slowest of our family, but that's still not nice to say. Okay, so high emotion equals low logic, and vice versa. And when we are in a low state of either of those, we misassign value, we don't express, so the emotion is high and trapped, or when we're not expressing to others and operating within ourselves in a way that doesn't work for us, we think the worst of other people. If you allow someone to repetitively hurt you because you don't say anything, who's actually a big part of the problem? You are, and you have to take responsibility for that. Expressing emotion is not only important, it's an obligation. It doesn't mean it doesn't come with a high price. You pay a high price for holding the mirror up to someone. I've done this with some of you. I've done this with all of you. Okay? Laugh. Okay? If it makes you feel better, I do it to myself too.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you guys, you pay a high price for holding the emotion up to someone. But one of my best advices that I ever got and that I will take with me all my life is, it is never a loving thing to give into somebody else's pathology. If someone is continually and repetitively exhibiting a behavior or a pattern that is hurtful to you, you owe it to them and the relationship to say, I'm not okay with this. This will not work for me. Because otherwise, they don't even maybe know. And yes, some people are that obtuse, okay? I live with 2 autistic men. Okay. So, what is maybe a better way to express emotion? Can anybody think of a way that is a healthier way to express emotion? What do we tell little kids all the time? What? Breathe.
And then respond.
Do you know that when you start feeling turmoil on the inside, your body literally doesn't know that it's on the inside, and so it goes into fight or flight? And do you know that there are multiple fight or flight responses? It's not just fight or flight, it's fawn. You become hyper needy and clingy to try to ingratiate yourself to the person that's hurting you. And then there's freeze. Or I'm sorry, no, it's fawn, freeze, there's one more. Fight or flight. Yeah, freeze. Like they hunker down and they become immobile. Like they don't do anything because they're scared, okay? So with that being said, many times high emotion will paralyze people, okay, internally. So breathing, just get yourself breathing, because do you know what a freeze response is? What does that do to your brain? It robs it of oxygen. And whoever gets smarter with no oxygen in their brain, okay? Number 2, movement. High emotion paralyzes people. It's a common coping mechanism, which is not helpful and not healthy. How many of you become suddenly so tired? That is totally a freeze trauma response, okay? We lock down, we hold still. I get real still, like to brace for impact, okay? It doesn't help me. I make myself get up. I go downstairs, I put the leash on my dog, we go for a walk. I get up, I go into my office, I put on my record player, and I do not let myself sit down. Okay? You have to move, okay? Emily Schutte taught me this. She's a camp counselor. Okay? Which is like, I would have hated her if we met each other earlier in life. I would have been like, you are the one I would have beat up. And she's like, and I would have been the one that came and pulled you out of the corner. And I said, and that's when I would have beat you up. Okay? So one of the things she taught me is get them in the water or get them outside. Get them in the water or get them outside. Take a bath, take a shower, go outside, be in the air, let the rain hit your face if you need to, but get out. You've got to get out because it gets you outside of yourself too, okay? Music, and I'm not talking about that Sarah McLachlan emo music, okay? Something more positive. And it can feel really hard to make yourself turn that on. It almost feels like it grates against you. But it's a habit to isolate and to pull in, and it's not a healthy one, okay? Journal. Get the feelings out of your head. Get the feelings out of your head. And what happens when you start getting it out? It's kind of like a cup that we've just let pour over. If we actually take the cup and just start pouring some of it out, it's like it just gets it off, and logic starts to return. The seesaw starts to right itself a little bit. And last but not least, what do we tell little kids? Use your words. Talk to people. And I want to be very specific in that. Talk to the right people. So when it comes to Mary Kay, because we're going to talk about your business today, who are the right people when you are disappointed or sad or frustrated with your business?
Our director got this.
Someone who's been there and done it. Somebody who can help you go in a better direction. Somebody can teach you or help you find the lesson in the situation and not assign an incorrect value to it. Okay? I do think it is situation dependent, because if you are going through something in your marriage, can I help you? No, I'm not trained to do that. But who can?
Marriage counselor.
A marriage counselor, a personal counselor, a mental health counselor. And I'll be honest, I think we should get a card at birth and we just get assigned a really great therapist.
For real. How
For
many
real.
jobs would that create?
Like, honestly, it would prevent so much physical and social chaos, I can't even tell you. I'll work on that as soon as I'm retired. Ask yourself, are they where I want to be? If you are broke or in major debt, do you go to your friend who's also broke and in major debt for advice? No. If you are lacking confidence and self-esteem, do you go to your other sad sack buddy? No.
Well, some people do just to.
Because misery loves company, but we're talking about how to do it in a healthy way, and that's not healthy, okay? Because now you're just Eeyores together. Okay? And last but not least, do they have your best interest at heart? Because a lot of those Eeyore people, misery does love company, and they want you to be as sad as them, because then if you are, it validates that it's the problem out here, not the problem in here.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of courage to have someone hold you accountable. So tell me what you're taking away from this morning, from your Communicate Your Way to Success.
If I have high emotion, I have very low logic. But if I have low emotion. I also have high logic, which neither one of those are great.
The goal is not over here or over here, it's here. It's here. Yes.
So I literally went through like all those emotions this
Mhm.
week. Yes, it was fun. But I like the ask yourself the 2 questions, and even those questions you gave us at retreat.
Mm-hmm.
I've been going through those, and I even asked my kids those too.
It's so helpful. Like,
Yeah.
so helpful. So, like, are your feelings bigger than your thoughts right now? It makes them pause. They usually have to start breathing, and it returns them to a place of logic, like, or it gets them closer to it.
Yeah.
You guys, the final thing I'm gonna say about this, I'm never ever here to tell anybody what they should believe. I do think it is a platform to share what I believe and invite you that if it feels right for you to take it. There's even scripture that says to not whine and complain. And I don't think God is saying never feel that way. But I think a lot of people take it that way. That's not it. He gave you the feelings. It's that you're supposed to come to Him. Because telling everybody else in the world about it is not going to change a ding dang thing. Except for make the rest of the world sadder. Okay? It's about coming to something bigger than yourself. So I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm not telling you who to worship. I'm just saying, I know that for me, if I'm the biggest thing I believe in, and I think it's all on me, that makes me want to stop before I start. But if you believe that you can come to God and talk to Him, and or whatever pew you worship from, if you can come to something bigger than yourself, I do think that He gives you people that He puts in your path through whom to speak. Okay, and so I guess I'm just saying, like, if you think that you're the end all be all, like the source of all provision, and it's all on you, that's too big of a weight for anyone to carry. And so if you do recognize, like, okay, this is screwed up. I'm gonna go pray about it. Again, you're getting it out, and you're actually getting it out to the person that can make the difference. Okay, to the God that can actually make a difference, or to the whatever your belief set, the universe, whatever you say. So tell me how you're gonna use this. Tell me how you're gonna use what you learned today.
More mindful about what I speak to people. When you were talking about, how women like take on everybody else's stuff, I literally just had that same conversation with a friend yesterday about how I take on everybody's problems and try to fix them when I don't have any room to try to fix them.
And here's the thing, without ever meaning to, does that point people towards God or something bigger?
No, they just then rely on me. And I've got too much on my plate anyway. And then when you get told, oh, why are you busy? Yeah.
And then you're busy with things that don't actually
Mm-hmm.
impact your life or the calling that's on your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's something to think about.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, what else? What else are you going to do with this today?
I had a realization. I always thought I went to like fight or flight mode. Honestly, I go into freeze mode like all the time. And granted, I do have like the like tendencies of the fawn and the fight or flight, but it's total freeze. I never understood it, and so now it's like,
There's a wonderful book called, and if you're not a book person, there's a podcast, and it's Brene Brown interviewing Dr. Bruce Perry, who's like the most well-respected child trauma expert in the world. He and Oprah wrote a book together, and so Brene Brown actually interviews them about the book. It's called What Happened to You, because the whole point is, it's not like when we see people behaving and we don't understand it, you want to say like, what is wrong with you? When the question that we should be asking is, what has happened to you? And I will just tell you, if you can approach it with some curiosity instead of judgment, when you see people acting erratically and wildly, instead of being like, you are a nutbag, if you said, whoa, I can see that you are upset. Tell me about that. Well, this is, and sometimes they can't get a hold of themselves, and definitely don't put yourself in a dangerous situation. But instead of just judging them, Christine and I have talked about this a lot since she works with our homeless population. If you talk to a lot of those individuals who are living on the streets and in the woods and all of that, they didn't just magically get there. They're not lazy. Usually these folks have gone through something horrific. A lot of them are veterans or people who have lost people catastrophically. Like, it's like, I get, it's so much, right? Like, it's so much. And so, like, I can understand going a little bonkers that way. Like, you know, or like, I would be a little more worried if you were like, hi, 11 of my family just died in the mudslide. Come into my home, let's have some tea, I'm great. Like, that would be certifiable, even though the behavior is socially appropriate. Does that make sense, you guys? Like, when we put it like that, it makes it look, I mean, I feel like that's like Sesame Street level, but like, that's the reality of it. That's how crazy it is. So I think it's about saying, like, what's happening here and what has happened to you, and tell me what has happened. And I am not here to fix it. I'm just going to hold on to you and be next to you. There's this great video from during COVID when a woman had lost someone really important to her, and she called her friend. And I just remember it was caught on the Ring camera, and the woman was laying in her driveway and the rain was falling down on her, and her friend just got out of the car, didn't even shut the door. She just turned the car off, got out of the door, and laid next to her. She's like, I couldn't make anything better. It wasn't mine to fix, but I just wanted her to know that I was there. And her friend was like, and that's all I really needed. It's not ours to fix. When people are in high emotion, it's not yours to fix. So don't think that that's what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is, because now you just have two people in high emotion.
Well, like, there are times where, like, I'll go home and, like, I just want to vent. And so, like, I'll be very specific with Jim. I'm like, I just want you to listen. I don't want you to, like, fix. Don't go into fix mode. Just listen to all the things that I want to. And over the last, like, 5 months with Roomba, that's kind of how it's been. I'm like, I don't want you, like, don't give me ideas of how to fix the situation, because at this point, there is no fixing. I just need you to, like, hear me.
One of our local vice presidents of a major employer here, she said something so smart. She's like, everyone needs a oh wow friend. She's like, that you can just call and be like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and all they can say is, nuh-uh. They did not. Oh wow. Girl, that's all they're allowed to say, okay? Because you don't actually, you just need to feel heard.
Yes.
You don't need, I already know
Exactly.
the answer.
Exactly.
You are smart. You already know the answer. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah.
Sometimes when I teach about stuff like this, I'm like, does this help their business?
It does.
I pray that it does. Because what I also know is that when your soul is on fire in a bad way, and you can't get that put out, it's almost impossible to light it up in a good way. And so I want to teach you the tools you need to put out the bad fires and to start the good ones. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Well, it also helps us to not prejudge. Because I was telling Ashley about this morning. So I did a double facial last night with a mom and a daughter. I met her at a vendor show. And if I had remembered exactly who she was, I'm not sure I would have gone last night. Because at the vendor show, she looked very dirty, not put together, like, but I didn't know all the other stuff. Like, she has psoriasis, which is causing her to have, like, flakes and everything all over her body. And, like, she's got 4 kids, and they're all girls, and she's a single mom, and, like, all these things that, like...
And what did you, when you found out those things, what happened to the way you felt?
The way I felt about her was way, like, totally shifted.
Do you guys know what that's called? What did she find?
That she has stuff.
She has stuff,
That she's
but what's the
gone through
emotion?
things. Sympathy.
You cultivated empathy.
Empathy.
Oh my god, I had empathy?
You did.
I didn't know that was possible.
I didn't either, but look at you. It's in there. We're taught how to behave. You're taught to not be empathetic. I don't think any baby comes out of the
Especially with our
womb
dad.
and God says, I'm taking all your empathy. Like, I just don't see it, you guys. I don't see any soul coming out doing that. We're taught that.
You've met our dad, right?
You said it, not me.
I'll say it to him.
Okay. So we are adding these tools to our toolbox so that we can go forward and not judge others. One of my favorite stories, I was a brand new consultant. I did not have as much empathy as I do now, or I had it, but I didn't know how to express it well. And there was this woman, and she was at the party, and I'll never forget, she was wearing Gap bibbed overalls and like a long sleeve t-shirt. I mean, she was like so cute. She had on like little Keds. I mean, I was like, oh my God, she's so trendy.
I would wear that.
And her hair was like the Rachel haircut from Brent. I mean, she just had it going on, right? And her name was Dusty.
Okay.
And she, with an I,
Yeah,
with an
that's
I, okay, right? And she was talking about her sister Tommy with an I. I'm like, okay, and she came with my friend Sally, who was having my party, and it was my second party ever. Okay, you guys, this is how long ago it was. And so they come to my home, and I am very overwhelmed by Dusty. She's also high confidence, okay? And she says to me, just so you know, I use Estee Lauder, so I'll not be trying anything. I'm just here to support Dusty. Or I'm just here to support Sally. And I was like, okay. And in my head, I thought, what would Jeannie Martin do? And you know, they're all older than me, because everybody was older than me at that point. And I was like, I thought to myself, Jeannie would say, don't feed what you don't want to grow. And so the whole time that she was there, I gave her no attention. I would be polite, but I gave her no attention. I turned my back to her a lot. She did not like that, okay? And so I started talking about skincare and how tonight we were gonna be using the Timelines, but we did have things for people that were seriously oily and very sensitive and dry. She's like, well, I have oily skin. And I was like, oh. And then I just kept going. And she's like, well, I guess I would try that. I would try your stuff. But just the skincare. And I was like, okay. And so she tried it and she's like, oh, this feels really good. And I was like, okay. But then, you guys, I did not. And then I talked about how we shade match foundations so that you don't have to have a line. And we have different formulas. And she's like, well, my oily skin, I would like to try something for that. I mean, I'm probably not gonna like it. And I was like, okay. So I matched her. She's like, oh, look at that. Oh my God, it's perfect. I was like, okay. And then I went right back to, and so I talked about how we customize color. And so she's like, well, I would look at what ones you would put on me. So I did. But when we got done, she's like, this looks so good. And when we got ready to check out, she bought a roll-up bag, completely filled. It was $2.99. That was, 23 years ago. And Sally ended up joining my team that night. And I'll never forget, I was walking Dusty out and I noticed she hung back. And she said, I was really not nice to you. And I said, you're being nice now. And she said, my life is really hard right now. My husband, who's upstairs, because we kind of knew, so the husbands were upstairs hanging out with Marky. She's like, he's not very nice to me. And he stayed tonight to make sure that I didn't go anywhere without him. And I said, I'm really sorry to hear that. And I said, if ever you want to change that situation, just know that you wouldn't have to do it by yourself. And so she joined my team, and she worked her business, and she grew not just confidence, but self-esteem. And she was able to leave that marriage. And she's still a great friend and a client, and I love her dearly. Actually, her son just got married and has a baby now. He got married about 2 years ago. Her name's Olive, and I just can't get enough of her. Okay? My point is only this, you guys. What if I had been like, what? A haughty wank. What if I would have been like, she is not worth my time, okay? You guys, instead, I didn't feed it, because that kind of perpetuates it. But when I showed her kindness and made her safe, I got to see the real person underneath, and she's one of the most stunning humans I know. So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So let's